Hey guys, it's Jake here with eTrailer. Today we're in a 2015 F-150 and we're going to be taking a look at, and I'm going to show you how to install the REDARC Tow-Pro Liberty brake controller. The REDARC Tow-Pro Liberty is going to allow you to tow trailers with 1 to 2 axles. This right here is going to be the only thing of the brake controller that you're going to see, because the brake controller module itself will be mounted underneath the dash. Probably the biggest selling point for this brake controller is going to be that the only thing, like I said, that you're going to see is this. So it's super small. You don't have to worry about the older style of brake controller that mounts up here. A lot of people worry about having to hit their knees on it and stuff like that. I've got pretty long legs. The front seat of this Ford F-150 is pretty big, but still I can see getting in and out of the truck. I could potentially hit my leg on it if it were mounted up here. You don't really have to worry about hitting your leg on it while you're driving, but in some smaller vehicles you may. With it just being this knob, you can pretty well mount it wherever you want, as long as you have about 2 inches behind where the plug's going to be, or where the knob's going to be able to fit the plug on the back side. This is going to be a proportional brake controller, which essentially what that means is as you are hitting the brakes, there's an inertia sensor inside of the red box that we're going to mount underneath our center console here. There's an inertia sensor in there so that whenever you hit the brakes, it senses how much you're applying the brakes, and it'll see how hard you're pushing the brake pedal, and it's going to send that same amount back to the brakes on your trailer as you're headed down the road. Time delay brake controllers are kind of a thing of the past, and it's a very old idea of how to apply brakes to a trailer. And because what they do is that when you hit the brakes, all it's going to do is wait a few seconds and then apply brakes to the trailer. There's not really any easing into the brakes themselves. Now, when it comes to the numbers that you'll see on this knob, that is the amount of brake pressure that you want applied to the brakes. A lot of times you're hauling a lighter trailer and you don't need the brakes to be locking up every single time. You want those to be closer to the 1 and 2 and 3 range on the knob. If you're getting into a little bit heavier trailer, then go into your 4 and 5 and 6, and then 7, 8, 9, and 10 is going to be your heavier trailers that need more braking power. Another thing I like to tell people is if your brakes are not adjusted properly or your brakes are getting older, you may find that you will have to increase your braking power more and more, and that should not come as a surprise. If you're having to do that, you probably want to check the brakes on your trailer, see if they either need to be adjusted or changed out. Like I just said, the Tow-Pro Liberty is just going to have the proportional mode. If you want the user mode, which is a green mode, you can see it's blue right now. The Tow-Pro Elite brake controller, which is going to have a black control box, that is going to be for trailers that have 1 to 4 axles, whereas this one is just 1 to 2 axles. That's more common across the board. The other thing that the Tow-Pro Elite is going to have is that user mode, which is that green mode. That is going to be more so for like overlanding, or if you're doing a lot of off-roading and you need your brake controller to send back, say a number 10 power to your brakes, but while you're just easing into your brakes. That user mode will apply that pressure automatically. The second you touch your brakes, that is when it's not proportional. So you're taking it out of proportional and putting it into the mode that you want to run it in. So if you're descending down a hill or something like that, a lot of people will like to use that mode so that when they just barely tap on the brakes, their trailer drags a little bit and it'll keep it straight behind the vehicle going down a hill. Another thing that I really like about what REDARC does is that they make these universal bezels that you can put into your vehicle. We did have to drill a 1-inch hole into this panel here, but underneath this, it is wide open. So there's already wires down in there and stuff that you can run these wires for the brake controller down through there too. Now, a question that I've gotten a lot since I've started installing brake controllers and stuff here at eTrailer is, how do I know what strength or what power to set my brake controller to once I install it for the first time? Well, my overall answer for that is always set it to 5, which is half the power that you can get out of this brake controller. And if you feel like your trailer is still pushing you after you hit the brakes on it, then turn it up to 6 and see how that feels. If you feel like on the power of 5 that your trailer is dragging you back, so you hit the brakes and you can feel the whole truck shift back, then maybe lighten it up a little bit. But that is the number one thing I like about this brake controller, and where I've got it located in this truck is he can drive down the road and have one hand on his brake controller, one hand on his steering wheel, drive down the road, and be able to make adjustments on the fly. Now you may be wondering where the manual override is on this trailer brake controller. The manual override is you take the knob and you push it straight down. You can hear that clicking. You can feel a lot better, but what I always recommend, and like I just said, put it in a place that you can get to it easily. Don't put it up here on a dash, or if you normally drive with your left hand or your right hand, whichever, put it in a convenient place where you can get to it and where you can see it all the time. So act like you're driving and then put it in a place where you can see it. A lot of people will put them over here on the left side because there's lots of available space over there. And I get that. There's some lighting options and mirror stuff like that. You're not changing that kind of stuff all the time. The stuff that you are changing all the time, the manufacturer puts over here that you can see it all the time. So why would you take your brake controller and stick it over here where you can't see it? What I recommend is on this F-150, I would always put it right here. It worked out perfect for us. We can drive down the road. If I'm in a kind of a squirrely area and there's bad traffic and my trailer is particularly heavy, I can sit here, have my thumb directly on top of this knob, and if I need to hit the manual override, I can just hit the manual override with my thumb while I'm driving, and I don't even have to look for the switch. Now that we've gone over some of those features, let's go ahead and pull it in the shop and show you how we got it installed. To begin our installation, what I want to do first is I want to get the button installed. You can do the other stuff first if you want to. I would prefer to get the button in place, and then everything else is just plug and play. Where we've decided to put it is your armrest is right here. I've decided to put it right here on this this black piece of plastic that is pretty close to or right behind our shift knob. What you'll do is you need to pull up on this piece of plastic here. This just had a little trim piece in there. Pull straight up on this, and then you're going to want to pull back. What you'll have to do is push your accessory on, drop that back. You can lift this up out of place. I know I didn't just take that out, but these panels don't like to go in and out a whole lot of times, so that's why I didn't put it back all the way. Shift that back into park, and then to get this piece out, there's going to be a screw right here and a screw right here. Take those two screws out. It'll allow you to lift up slightly on this. You'll have to pop all these fasteners out on the edge, 3 on that side, 3 on this side, and then underneath, I can show you a little bit better, there's going to be these little tabs here are all clipped in, and that's just this little leather piece here. So unclip that, disconnect your wiring over here, disconnect your wiring over here, and then this whole black plastic piece comes out, and we can get it lined up and drill our hole for our decorative cover. If you're wanting to use this decorative insert piece, you will have to pick it up off our website separately. And with this kit, you'll get a little diagram, which is super, super helpful. What I did was I marked the center of where I'm going to want this to be. Make sure you angle it up a little bit so that that little silver trim in there doesn't interfere with the bottom of this cover. But line it up. I just took a center punch the center of this hole, and then I took our little diagram that comes in our kit, lined up our center hole, put it in place, and then you'll have to mark this center hole too for the little LED light. I've got that hole marked there, that hole marked there. Now we need to take a 5/32 drill bit, drill both of those out. Next, we're going to use a 1-inch hole saw in order to drill out our main hole larger. We took our decorative collar there, pushed it into place. On your plug, you'll see it's like a little fiber that will emit the LED. We'll slide that, make sure you're putting that through the opening on that back side. And we're going to take this collar and attach the nut to it to keep it in place. Then we're going to use a 12mm socket and snug this down. I'm not even going to use a tool in order to do this. I'm just doing it by hand so that it's nice and snug. Turn your knob all the way to the left, this little pin here, turn it all the way to the left, and then we're going to take our knob and put it on 0 when it's straight up and down. So that when our knob is turned all the way to the left, it is in fact on 0. And then from here, you'll just turn your brake controller up, turn it all the way down, and you know it's on 0. Next, back in our vehicle, we're going to pry back on this little panel. The factory plug for our brake controller is actually going to be connected to the back side of this little gap because this is where our factory brake controller normally is installed. So it's actually pretty smart. They made a little harness to where it can connect right to the back of it, and it stays there for whenever you need it. And the nice thing I like about that is that if you decide to go with the factory brake controller, it's right there. We're going to pull this panel off though. This is going to give us some side access to get behind here to grab that plug. Let this rotate down. And then what I need to do is I need to get this plate out of my way so that I can get my hand back in here and grab that plug. We're going to use an 8mm socket in order to get these out. Get this just set out of our way temporarily. And what I'm going to do is reach back up in here. Found that plug. Pull it out. And here it is. Now what I'm going to do is I've got our Redarc harness that's designed to plug into our brake controller module and then into the Ford factory plug. I'm going to attempt to thread it underneath this little cavity here and up behind the dash. We should be able to get it back there. It'd be a lot nicer to be able to put our brake controller module in here. That way it's nice and safe out of the way. And then we get this connected to the truck side, and then this will plug into that module. I've got our wire harness ran behind the dash. We can take our harness, connect it up to our factory plug, and I'll tuck the rest of this back up in there. We can take our brake controller unit. We're going to plug that right in, make sure this clips. And then we're going to find a good spot on the inside down in here to zip tie this to. To temporarily hold our brake controller box in place, what I'm going to do is put some hook and loop fastener on the back side of it, and then I'm going to hook and loop it to the side of this air duct here. There's a nice clean spot here on the side that's down inside that hole that it'll fit great. Sneak it down in here, and you want to make sure you give yourself enough room to be able to connect that up. I might actually go ahead and throw that connector on there right now. Make sure you got enough there. I'll sneak it down in there. Stick it to the side of that duct. Now I'm going to grab those zip ties I was talking about, and I'm going to secure it to that duct. You can just probably get by with the hook and loop fasteners. I just like to make sure that it's, because this brake controller has to learn its position, that it doesn't move. For the other end of our wire, that is going to go to the bottom side of our switch. So we've just got it run up inside this little cubby with the shift lever. We're going to leave this here. This extra wiring we can just kind of tuck down in here. It's not going to hurt anything because the cup holders just sit on top of this. So just make sure this is all tucked out of the way so when we put that back, it won't be in the way. Now I'm going to take our panel that goes over top of our shift lever here. We're going to connect up our plug first. Make it a little bit easier. Just match up the plug, make that connection. And this spot could not have worked out any better because of the extra space we have under here. We've got to, reconnect some of our wiring and stuff like that. But other than that, it works out really, really nice because we've got that extra space for the wiring and stuff. There's already wiring there, so it's not going to be a bad pinch point. Or it's not going to be a pinch point at all. It's just getting everything put back together. Now that we've got it all installed, all we have to do is plug in our trailer tester box and get our brake controller synced up to the location that it's mounted. Basically what we have to do is we have to drive around for a little bit. We're going to have to hit the brake 10 or 15 times. We're going to plug our trailer box in place. Just plug it into the 7-pole. The trailer box kind of pretends to be a trailer. You can just plug into your trailer with brakes, drive around for a little bit. And what's going to happen is during that braking period, you're going to see a little LED light like this, and it's going to kind of go on and off. And then once it turns to a solid color, that means you know that the syncing is complete. Before we take our truck on a drive to break in our brake controller and get it all synced up, the first thing I wanted to show you is you can see here how it's blinking green and blue. That's what's going to do until it figures out the orientation of that red box that we put down underneath our dash. So it's going to keep doing that until we hit the brakes enough times. But the other thing I wanted to show you is you just want to make sure that the brake is working correctly. So we've got it turned up to a 10 right now, and I'm just going to push this, hold it, and you can see that now it's flashing red, but we can also see that our taillights are lighting up, which is correct because it's tied into the brake signal, and that our little tester box, which is a silver box we have sitting on a tonneau cover, is reading the correct voltage. So we can see now that it stopped blinking from blue and green and red to just blue. And when I hit the brakes, it just shines red. If I back it off a little bit, it's a little bit lighter red, more like a magenta. A little bit more, it's a little bit more pink. That means we're done syncing up and we're ready to tow our trailer. Well guys, hopefully this video helped you decide whether or not the REDARC Liberty brake controller is right for you in your 2015 F-150.